Hey everyone, welcome to Archives and Algorithms. I'm Fred Gibbs, an associate professor in the history department. I'll be your guide for the semester. I work in two totally different areas. I work in the history of food, diet, and health, and how those histories intertwine on one hand, and on the other hand, I work in a field called critical data studies, which is thinking critically about how data and algorithms and surveillance and other things are interacting with us and our world that we're creating in ways that we don't necessarily think of when we're busy making new apps and just getting on with daily life. And personally, what I really enjoy doing is thinking about how the theories and the interpretive frameworks and the questions and so on that we get from history is very useful in thinking about the future of data, which is something that not a lot of people are doing, but I think it's really exciting. And that's kind of the basis for this class in terms of putting archives and algorithms together, thinking about how does the long history of archives tell us something about the future of data and algorithms and automated decisions and so on. So we'll get into the course content in a little bit. Just wanted to introduce myself and introduce the course a little bit, especially make sure it's very clear to you where you can find all the tools that you need to get started with the course. You have a bunch of little things to do this week. This is kind of a startup week. It's a short week. We're getting back in the groove of the semester. So there's not a lot of things to do, but there's a couple things that you really need to get done sooner than later, at least early in the week, so that things are ready. Okay, let's go to UNM Learn. This course has sort of a shell in Learn, and it's really just a shell because we're not going to be using Learn that much. But let me just show you what's here. If you've probably already seen it, you can see that there is an informational page where I basically say we're not using Learn for very much. And I have a link to the syllabus, which is here, and there's also a link to the syllabus here. I'll go to that in a second, but before I do, I want to highlight there's a discussion board, which I'm not sure how much we're going to use, but I set it up so it's there, it's ready to go. It doesn't have anything on it now. There is a YouTube channel for this course where all the little videos, including this one, will be put. And if I go to it now, you'll see that it just has one video, how to create your website, which I'll get to in a second. Everything will be there. I linked to it on the syllabus also for the day that you really need it, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. But if you need to look at a video and you're not sure where it showed up on the syllabus, you can just go to the YouTube channel and find it easily. And then all of the grading for the class will happen in Learn, so that you can always see at a glance where you are in the class and how things are going, and it's where we can communicate privately about your grade and so on. I try to have less grading in the class because it's not really fun for anybody, frankly. I'm not sure it serves a lot of purpose. There has to be some grading, obviously. But all the grading that will happen will be in Learn and will be posted in your grade book there. Okay, so that's it for Learn. There'll be occasionally a quiz or a survey or something like that. You'll be able to access that and Learn as you've done with other classes. Right now, there's nothing to do along those lines. So let's go to the syllabus. The syllabus is not on Learn. That's probably the most important thing of these introductory comments. The syllabus is external to Learn, and it's right here, fredgibbs.net, that's me, and all of my syllabi are here. And this is the main course page that we're looking at right here. I want to go over this very quickly just to highlight a couple things. You can all read it in detail for yourselves when you get a chance. There's two pages to the syllabus. There's this page, which is all the logistics stuff about grading and workload and that kind of stuff that you'd expect. And then there's the schedule page, which is here. And this shows you what you're doing on any given week. And I don't have specific days here. It's just kind of week by week. Everything is due at the end of the week on Friday. And I'll go through this in a second, but everything is on these two pages, okay? Let's go back to the home page here. Course description. I've kind of already indicated where this course comes from. The history of archives, I think, is really fascinating, and I hope you'll come to like it as we get into our readings about them. This course is really split into two halves. The first half of the course, up until spring break, we basically talk about the history of archives. We talk about how they were created, how they acted as instruments of colonialism and imperialism and power. We talk about how they've changed dramatically over the last 30 years, moving from a top-down model of states and organizations saving stuff that they think is important and deciding who gets included and who doesn't, and so on, to much more sort of community-driven archives where communities are able to preserve their own histories, to talk about what they feel is important and preserve what they think is significant for future generations to see. So that's the first half of the class. The second half of the class is really about how algorithms and automated decision-making and data is all around us, and it influences in ways that we don't necessarily appreciate. So all the things that we do, how we use our phone, how we use our web browser, how we use your smartphone apps, all of this stuff creates data about us. And this is a pretty amazing archive of people and what they're doing and how they, what they do in their life. But this raises very interesting questions of who has access to this data, who controls it, what stuff gets saved, what stuff gets deleted, how is it managed, how does it promote systemic racism or bias, how does it promote things that already exist in the world but then now get encoded into these automated ways. And it's very subversive, because when you go to a bank, for instance, you want to buy a house. You probably haven't done this yet, but you want a loan, small business. You're starting something from scratch. You need some capital. You go in and say, I need a loan. They ask you, what are you doing? What's your business plan? You're talking to a person, and then you get a yes or a no, right? And that is fundamentally driven in part by race. And not just your business plan, not just, what product you're making or what your service is, but it's driven by the statistics that we keep about who's going to commit a crime, who's more likely to pay back a loan, what kind of life are you likely to lead. And it's really this objective mountain of statistics that goes into this decision making, and no one is really responsible for it. Right? It's not the person, your loan officer, it's not the person you're talking to. It's this sort of algorithm that's making these decisions. And yes, someone programmed these, but they programmed it to be objective, to look at all the data. But what happens when the data is coming from a world that is full of biases and discriminations and inequities? And that gets sort of filters through this algorithm. And then we think it's more objective because it's not, the whim of one person making a decision saying yes or no. It's just the algorithm. So there's this sort of air of objectivity about it, but it just sort of embodies a lot of the problems that already exist in the world, except it gives us a way of not acknowledging that these problems exist because it's the algorithm, it's objective. So I think it's very interesting to think about how we can use the history of the archive and how it's changed recently, and the problems and the selection biases and so on, how we can learn from that to think about what is the future of data and data access and collection and so on. Student learning outcomes, these are straightforward. I just want to make sure you know they're here. Everything we do in this class is in service of these things. I'm not going to read them to you. They're pretty clear. They're pretty straightforward. But I want to make sure you know they're here. And I don't put them on the syllabus just because somebody tells me to. I think they're really important. And I try to make it clear in the assignments that these are the things you're doing all the time, these student learning outcomes. Imagination over regurgitation. I'm trying to not have this class be something where I tell you something or tell you to read something and then you sort of paraphrase it or spit it back out to me, and then I say, oh, you got an 8 out of 10, good job. We could do that. I've done that before. Some of you know that all too well. This is meant to be more of an exploratory class. There isn't an answer. There isn't a particular thing you need to know, right? You can spend more or less time with the reading and learn more or less what's in it and think about the ideas, but there isn't something you have to know, right? This is an exploration of what's going on with archives, what is that history, and how do we apply it to contemporary life, especially in terms of algorithms. That's what we're trying to figure out. And we do more of that towards the end of the class after we've gone through our readings and so on. But it's trying to think through those relationships throughout the semester that is really driving this class. And it's much less about me just giving you information and you trying to, spit it back out at me. Okay, if you want that kind of class, that's cool, I get it. But that's not really what we're going to be doing. I want to make sure you know that you are very welcome here. If you've never thought about archives or algorithms, which is probably most of you, that's great. Even better. There's no reason you can't totally succeed in this class. It assumes you know nothing about history, nothing about archives, algorithms, technology, anything. We start from scratch, we build up through the readings sort of an expertise in these areas, and then think about together how we can sort of put them together. General workload, you'll usually read about 2 to 3 articles or book chapters per week, so it's really standard for an upper level humanities class. You'll post occasionally a reading reflection on a single reading, and usually a weekly reflection, which is a chance for you to talk about how the articles intersect and how they diverge. 250 words and 700 words, you can see that here. Sometimes I give you a few guiding questions. Sometimes you just talk about what you found interesting or where you got confused or sort of how it relates to other kinds of articles we read and that sort of thing. To break up the monotony of those things, those are kind of standard because it's routine. You get in the habit of it. I think it's a good pedagogical tool, but it gets boring if you just do it every week. So we have these other special assignments, which are the same length, 700 words, where you kind of do something and then you write about it. Or it's not quite a reading reflection, so it's a little bit more fun to do, and we'll talk about these assignments in a second. So it's basically you have sort of the 700 word like essay, and 700 words goes really fast. If you've read the articles and you've thought about them, it's really easy to say something really interesting in that space. One thing that's a little unique to this class maybe is that instead of posting everything on Learn, we're going to create our own websites. Each of you are going to create your own websites to host your work, and you'll either be blog posts or pages. You don't need any technical knowledge to do this. We use a free platform called Wix, W-I-X. Some of you may have used this before. That's your assignment for this week, is to get that set up, and I've walked you through every single step. There's a screencast already that shows you, you saw it a second ago, that shows you what to do. No problem. It'll take you 10 minutes. And it is a platform that we use not just as a place to put our work. It's not just an alternative to Learn, although I think maybe that's not such a bad thing in itself. But it's because it allows us to create different kinds of posts and pages and do something in terms of creating an archive that we actually use in different ways throughout the semester. So this sort of digital archive you're creating, which is my fancy term for a website, is integral to the class because we use it and sort of interrogate it, and you'll be critiquing other people's sites as an archive and doing some fun assignments around those. Grading. I hate grading, you hate grading, but we have to do it a little bit. So what I've done here, you can read through all this, but the bottom line is the main assignments you'll be doing, here's a list of all the kinds of assignments you'll be doing. Looks like a lot of stuff, but it's really just kind of one thing per week, and then with some repetition. These responses and reflections that I've already talked about, these are graded as you get 2, 4, or 6 points. There's sort of 3 tiers. It's kind of like, okay, good, and great. That's kind of how it goes. Rather than nitpick points and say, oh, you should have got a 4.5 or you should have got a 12.3. You're in one of these tiers, right? You're either doing minimal work and you get a 5, or you're doing solid work but it's kind of missing parts of the readings and doesn't seem to really be engaged with it, and you get the middle score. Or you're clearly putting an effort to read carefully enough that you have something to say, you write it up in a way that makes sense, it's decently organized, and you get full credit. So it's going to be pretty easy if you're actually trying. If you're actually putting in any effort to reading the assignment and thinking about it, you'll get full points almost every time. And it's only when you're obviously not reading something, or you just don't mention a huge chunk of one of the readings that is obviously very important, that's when you drop your score down. But everything is sort of a work in progress. So if I give you 10 points out of 15, I will ask you some questions. Well, what did you think about this? What about this point? It's a way of me trying to interact a little bit in our virtual setup here. But it also gives you a chance to elaborate on something and get those points back that you missed. Okay, so if you want to respond to what I have, if you want to respond to the questions, then you can get those extra points. And you can get whatever grade you want. I want to make it fun to do this stuff. I think it's pretty interesting. And I don't want the specter of a grade hanging over every single assignment. There has to be some kind of grade, I think. But this way it's, there's these three little bins, and you do minimal work, you do okay work, or you do solid work, and you get that level of points. So it makes it very straightforward and allows you to move up very quickly. You do extra work, you get to the next tier, you get full points, keep your A going throughout the semester, okay? A couple of these assignments already have guidelines. I'm in the process of writing all of these out or polishing them. Most of them have been drafted at least. And so when I finish them and post them, they get linked here. So when you click the link, it just takes you to a separate page that it gives you an introduction, the basics of the assignment, scoring, which basically summarizes what I just said. And that's that. So every assignment will have one of these pages associated with it, and they all sort of act as, unless you're doing a weekly reflection, you'll be doing one of these things, these other kinds of assignments, which are, just kind of more interesting kinds of weekly reflections. Standard grade percent. Okay, readings. There's no books for this class. It's all articles, and all of these articles are going to be in a tool called Zotero. It's a platform for distributing bibliographies and sharing resources and so on. That's how we're using it, for me to get you the PDFs. You need to, this week, one of your tasks is to connect to Zotero. You go to zotero.org, create an account, ask to join our group. I say yes, and then you have access to all the readings. It's very quick. The instructions are right here. There's just 4 steps, and you're set. Okay, so you can take care of that this week. If you have any questions about getting connected to Zotero or any questions about anything, please let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, that's the general gist of the course. The schedule page, I'm not going to go through this week by week. I do want to just show you how it's set up, because it's consistent throughout the semester, even though some of the things at the end of the semester haven't been put on this page yet. So week 1, that's where we are. Review the syllabus, watch a short introductory video. That's this. And set up Zotero, just mentioned that. Set up your website. This is one of the things you need to do this week, sooner the better. Again, no technical skill required. This is not a technical exercise. You're just using this free online platform to do it. I've made a quick screencast of going through all of these steps that you see here. So if you just want to see what it is, you don't want to have to sort of go back and forth between the website and these instructions. If you just want to see it and then do it, great. If you want to just read the instructions, great. It doesn't matter to me. Just get your website set up. So you're going to create a new site. You're going to edit an about page and type in a small bio. And I explain more of this in the video as well. I don't just click through it. I actually explain a little bit more about what we're doing. Part of the website, you'll edit your about page. All the templates that we can pick from will have an about page. And I want you to write a short, like 100-word bio about yourself. What stuff are you into? What are your life goals? What are your favorite foods? And why you ended up in this class. What did you think it was going to be about? What are you interested in learning? And so on and so forth. Okay, just as a way of introducing ourselves a little bit. Save your site, publish it, and then once you're done, this is also in the video, but you will go to a Google Doc that I've set up where each of us will post the URLs to our site so that we can see each other's. We don't do a whole lot of interaction stuff at the beginning, but I certainly need to see your posts and so on. So this is where you put your URL after you make your site. Making your site, it sounds complicated, like making a website. This is going to take me a long time. No, it takes like 10 minutes. Like it's all automated. You just click here, click there, and you're done. Okay, so after you've published your site and that's done, you have a little bit of reading to do, just a couple of things. Well, there's always just a couple of things, but it's really just 15 pages here, and then it's a blog post. What do you mean by archive? So I wanted to get us thinking about the history of archives and sort of modern uses of the term to think about how these things are a very slippery concept. It seems like an archive should be pretty straightforward, but in fact, there's a lot to it. So as a warm-up this week, you'll read these, and then you'll post your first reading response, which is outlined here. Again, you can follow these steps. This process is also in that other video that I referenced. Create a post, paste in your text, or write it in the website, doesn't matter. Here's the prompt that I want you to follow. It gets a little bit lost in this list here. Using the readings to think about how is one author talking about archive compared to how the other author is talking about archive. That's basically the question. But put that as your warm-up post. I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts about it, but I'm not going to grade it. This is just a warm-up way of getting things going. It's a long semester. We have plenty of stuff's going to get graded. We don't need to start this week, but it gives you a chance to practice getting your post in, making that process familiar. I get to read your stuff and see what you think about the readings this week, and we'll be on our way. Okay, that's what we're doing this week. Pretty straightforward. Week 2, this is pretty typical. I'm just going to talk about week 2. I'm not going to go through the rest of the semester, don't worry. Week 2, here's what it's going to look like normally. Week 1 has a lot of stuff. That's very unusual. So most weeks are going to look like this. You're going to have 2 to 3 things to read. Here's an article about historians, archivists, and the changing archival landscape. So you're going to write a reading response, which is a blog post just like you did for this week. And then you'll have another reading called Algorithmic Culture. And then a weekly reflection that asks you to sort of talk about how these articles can interact, right? Here are the prompts that you should think about and write about. What can algorithmic culture learn from the history of the archive? How can our thinking about information crowd and algorithm be informed by how historians have used archives? So that's kind of the theme for the whole course, obviously. So next week we read these couple of things to sort of get our minds going in that way. And then you can scroll down just to see what the topics are for the rest of the semester. We talk about archival power, archival silences. Here's our first special assignment where you'll make a separate sort of web page in your website instead of a blog post. So you have a little bit more space, and you'll have some images and other things that will be part of that post. We'll talk all about that as we get closer to week 4. Classification of archives, interfaces, decolonizing archives, making them less a tool of imperialism and control, community archives, and then we get spring break, and then algorithmic text, sort of digitization of the existing archive, and then we talk about algorithms in the everyday world, carceral archives and criminal justice, surveillance, data valence, representing data in archives, and so on. And then the last couple weeks, there's no new readings. We're just kind of reflecting on all this stuff and writing a couple essays about that. And there is a final due May 14th. It's just the same length, basically. It's a little longer than your standard essay. So there's no big midterm. There's no big final. There's no big assignments really ever. We just kind of move evenly throughout the course. And that's about it. This has gone on too long already, but I want to make sure you're clear as to what the point of the class is, how everything is set up, and so on. It's nice to meet everyone. I wish we were in person. I'm sure you do too. But we're going to have a good time. There's a lot of really good readings, and I think it's going to be fun to think about these very different concepts together at the same time. So looking forward to your blog post this week. I'll talk to you all very soon.